Jack's RPG Podcast. I'm in Max. Pursuing the RPG hobby with reckless abandon.
Thank you for joining us for Season 19, Episode 20 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu.
My name is Kimmy.
I'm still Stork.
Yep.
It's just the three of us.
Yep. It's all cool. It's all good.
It is. In this episode of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast... Oh, wait! Yes, no, I'm right. We're going to discuss spinning plate syndrome.
Yeah.
Javier from Spain asks about keeping players invested between sessions. Mm-hmm. Nicholas from Sweden writes in about players about playing when having the full picture. Mm-hmm. James writes in about yes-ending failures. Or is it just crazy players? And then Allervant asks, is this going too far with dice fudging? But first, if you'd like to email us, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. Mm-hmm. happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. We're on the social medias. We're on the tweeters. Yeah. happyjacksrpg, all one word. And we're also on Instagram at happyjacksrpg, all one word. If you want to watch us live, we do the show on Fridays at 8 p.m. Pacific time. Go to happyjacks.org/live, and you will find all of the necessary links and chat rooms and stuff to watch us live. And if you'd like to support the show, you can go to happyjacks.org/Patreon, Patreon.
Do the thing.
And support the show directly.
Yes.
Anyone play anything? I played. What did we run? Oh, we ran a Vampire.
Yeah.
Oh, we
were both.
You had the sniffles.
I watched it though.
That's right. You both. Did you guys? Were you floored? No, I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah.
No spoilers.
Well, I mean, at first I was like, I thought it was a really, really genius move because for a lot of reasons.
Shit went down, man. Like a lot.
And in the chat room they were all like, swerve. Just when you think it's going one direction, swerve. It was really good. Did she warn you she was going to do that?
Well,
Don't be careful.
Yeah, I know. Okay. I will. She. And
I'm not giving any of the way. I'm not saying which one it was because there were no men there. There were just three women.
She kind of felt like there was a target on her back, and she wanted some.
I wonder why.
Right, and she wanted some
breathing room.
No, she wanted some ways or options on how to avoid that. Mm-hmm. So I gave her, I think, 2 or 3, and she picked the one I thought she was least likely to pick.
Of course.
Therefore, it was the one I did not really prep for.
When I was watching it, you didn't seem too surprised. You giggled, but you didn't seem you didn't go.
She had texted me.
You giggled.
On which one she wanted to do.
Okay.
Like 2 minutes before she walked in the door. Uh-huh. And then we within a couple minutes we started.
That was really fun.
Yeah.
It was a really fun moment.
So yeah, it was.
So everybody needs to tune in and watch that. Actually, I think we gained a couple of followers. During the course of that, but to find out what we're talking about.
And other things coming up, other games I want to talk about now. Spinning plate syndrome.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Speaking of vampire.
What do you mean by spinning plates?
Spinning plates. Is that a Chinese thing? Where they spin the plates and
I think of it like circus or vaudeville or whatever.
Yeah, the circusing where you have a
they
pole.
take the things up and they get them spinning and
you spin, yeah.
I thought it developed in China. Maybe it didn't. I think
it's been around a
Who
long
invented
time.
plates?
I could certainly. Who invented plates?
Who invented China? Wait. Sorry.
See, it probably
yes,
is.
There it is.
I don't. Yeah.
Anyway,
Kimmy figured it out.
So basically, as a party's adventuring, they discover plot hooks or adventure leads, stuff that they can do, and they pick which they're going to do and which they're not. Or they're going to say, okay, well, we're dealing with this right now. We'll make a note of this, and next time we're back in this town, we'll do this or whatever. But I kind of want to talk about how players can handle it and deal with it, because the thing that Well, I'll get to that in a second. And also how GMs can handle it. Because there are times when you've got a party that is terrified, let's say, and they are unwilling to take a plot hook because they're afraid it will mean certain death. You throw out more plot hooks. But that doesn't mean the previous plot hooks go away.
Right.
Nope.
So that's kind of what I want to talk about, is that sort of thing from both the player's perspective and from the GM's perspective. Because that's usually why GMs do it. They're throwing things out because they're trying to... It's like putting bait and throwing it out to see if it can catch a fish. No, the fish didn't like the cheese, so I'm going to try a sardine.
And there's also stories that you want to tell, too, because there's things that, as a GM... You're like, you could spend a lot of time in your head creating these little worlds, like, ooh, wouldn't it be cool if, and wouldn't it be cool? And so you throw them out too, because it's something that might be interesting, that you think might be interesting to try to play.
Well, yeah, presumably everything I throw out is something I think could be interesting.
Yes.
But it's all, I mean...
Why put something interesting out there, please?
You may sound like you're throwing it out just for the players, and I think that it's also important to put it...
sure.
This is something that you've thought about and have a really cool idea about, or a spin on.
Or I'm curious as to how that might progress during the course of the game sessions. So, but yes, it's both. So as players, what do you vampire game, perfect example. A lot of problems. Some of those are now someone else's problem.
Right.
In the game. But a lot of problems, some tough ones too.
Yeah.
How do you think firstly I think we like to talk about immersion and the players playing their characters and getting inside the characters' heads. But the dangers that the characters are facing aren't real to the players.
No.
If you, on your way home, some guy came up to you you've never seen before and says, "I'm going to kill you, you motherfucker."
Absolutely terrifying.
You are not going to forget that.
No.
That's not something where you're going to be driving to work the next day and say, "Oh yeah, that guy said he was going to kill me. I should have mentioned that to someone."
Yeah.
Damn it. Right? That's not going to happen. But for your character, being threatened or knowing that there's some creeping dread somewhere in the peripheries of your life that's going to pounce on you at some point is going to keep you on edge. But as the player, there's a degree of separation there, so it's like, I'll just forget about it. It's not real.
Right.
So you're just,
Well, and also the time between things.
Sure, and we have a severe time dilation with the vampire game. Although, like 5 or 6 days went by during the course of the last session.
Right.
But still,
but I mean in like real life days.
Right.
It's like you're like, oh, a thing happened, and if you would see that same group of people like the very next day and play that same game the next day,
everyone would know.
Yeah, I'd be like, we totally remember that XYZ happened.
Right, and that kind of actually gets onto the
sorry,
to Javier's
I'm jumping ahead.
email. But how do you think as players, what is the best way for you to manage that information so that it remains as relevant and in the forefront of the character's mind?
There's a couple of things at play here as a player. First of all, it's a group of people. And oftentimes it descends into what plot hook they want to take, or some personality decides that that's we're going to take the boat to Death Island anyway. I don't care what you all say, and off you go on to one particular plot hook without anybody else really having a say so. Sometimes too, it's just something is more immediate than the others. It's like, we're being shot at by a sniper. Let's just drop what we're doing and resolve this, and that can take a while to resolve. It could take a couple of game sessions before they go back and revisit. Sometimes also there's something that isn't that immediate. Let's say you just have a benevolent witch who, although powerful, isn't really affecting you yet, and you're still aware of her.
Is at home sewing doilies.
Right. She's not necessarily a threat
yet.
Right now.
But and currently the guy shooting at you is. So see, there's some prioritizing that's been going on as well. And then there's even sometimes, like, we can't handle that yet. There's no way we can tackle that. We need to come back and revisit that when we have more power, more plans, and more and are more deeply entrenched. I know with the vampire game too, we've been so knocked about left and right and stuff, and it's not your fault. It's actually a lot of fun, and it's very, very cool. I'm saying this wrong. I'm not saying it as a bad thing. It's just it's been so dynamic and things bouncing everywhere. We haven't really had a chance to stop and go, okay, all right. What about Doyle McMitcherson? What happened now? We haven't had that moment to sort of kick back, and we've been actively pursuing this one storyline.
Sure.
It's finally ended, and I can see now we're starting to pick up pieces. But as a player, again, I'm not acting alone, right? And then even that also says some of the plot hooks might be personal plot hooks. You know, they might relate to somebody's backstory, and the rest of the group isn't necessarily want to travel across country to go meet your master or whatever. That's something that's personal to you, not necessarily to them. So they all have input about what it is the group is going to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
one down.
I think I like your point about different things being a different priority to different characters.
Sure,
because that's
absolutely
100%. Like we had, I think we're focused on Vampire because this is, the best example of a spinning plate game with a bunch of stuff happening, and it was, it was hard because, I don't want to give spoilers. As Prince, sometimes you have to manage that stuff, and it's weird being a player in that position. But like there'd be things where I would see that this was the most important thing, and then someone else would think, oh no, this is more important, like this is a bigger threat. And you can totally justify both points of view.
Right.
So
the L5R reboot was a good one. It was a good example of that as well. There was a time when we were like, well, let's get the sword and we're going to go to an island. We're like, and you were like, okay. It was almost a made-up plot hook that the players then went off on, as opposed to following the trail of breadcrumbs that clearly led to the other direction. It is a group. It's a group mind, and everybody, there's a consensus that has to happen, and then you ought to go on to the one direction.
And as GM, you don't know.
No.
It's when at the table you'll figure it out, obviously, but when you're prepping, you don't know how the players are going to prioritize things.
No.
Yeah.
And
they don't.
I'm constantly surprised when, like in the L5R, in one of the L5, I think it was in the reboot of the L5R game. Mm-hmm. One of the I was thinking the players were going to head into the lion territory, because they had the one of the swords, right?
Right.
And I had all that prepped.
I know.
That shit was all ready to go.
Instead, we got on a boat and went to the...
And you went the opposite direction, and you went to where the Order of
Mystery
the
Monastery
Crane's
was,
Feather, or whatever it was.
For some weird, just unjustifiable reason. We were trying to hide the sword. I don't remember what it was.
I don't think it had anything to do with the sword.
I don't know what happened.
Because the sword... I don't know. Had you recovered it at that point? I don't remember. You had? Okay.
I don't remember so much about that game.
Right. Well, there was a sword that was cursed.
I remember that, yeah, but I don't remember what we decided about.
And in the previous group, if I recall correctly, had buried the sword somewhere in the forest or in a swamp.
Yeah.
And it started corrupting that area.
Yeah.
And I think the new party went back and got it? Is that correct?
We went back to go find it. It was missing. Then we tracked it down to a camp, and I remember I killed the guys with my green fire and stuff.
One character decided to hide it because they thought, this is way too dangerous to keep. So one character went off with the sword and hid it someplace.
Is that me?
Might have been yours.
I think it was me. I was like, that sounds really familiar. That sounds like a great plan. Some genius thought of that.
So right there, there were all these diverging storylines, basically, because it was a group effort, as opposed to everybody had their own opinions about what it is we should do.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that is. I mean, oftentimes we create our own spinning plates out of that. Like all of a sudden we went off in a completely different direction. You're like, I don't have a plate for this. I guess here's a new one. I now got to set up.
I will take one off the shelf.
Exactly.
Well, and I think you run into a lot there the don't split the party mentality, which we do a lot in our games, and that's okay to split the party sometimes. But like going back to the vampire game, I mean, you could also talk about the Inukai game this way, but it's like in the real world, like as Prince, it would be like you handle the cameras, you handle the witch, and like boom, like everybody goes and deals with something.
Right.
But you don't want to do that in an RPG. So there's a little bit of, I guess, I mean, it's metagaming, it really is.
Well, I think it's okay to split the
right.
See,
2 and 2 seems fine to me, but you don't want to send everybody in a different place.
In real life, that would make the most sense, because then you're going to get the most ground covered, and you get everything dealt with immediately.
Yeah. But it makes it a really crappy RPG game. because literally it's like, okay, it's your turn. Okay, ignore you while I take you on.
Right.
So you
but you have to hit those things quickly, and
Yeah.
you have to bounce around.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with splitting the party as long as it's handled fast. You know, if you have a quick thing where like 2 characters are going off and doing something, and you're going to send the other 2 characters off to do something else.
Yeah.
Let's resolve this really quickly. It's not going to be, you know, the big set piece fight. Obviously, if I had planned for that to be the big set piece fight, one of 2 things is going to happen. It's either not going to be. It's going to be an easier fight
Yeah.
that's going to get resolved in 10 or 15 minutes.
Right.
Or they're going to show up and realize
They're out.
we need more help.
Yeah.
And they're going to go,
Mayday,
and it's
mayday.
going to stay the set piece fight.
Please.
And I'm going to make sure
Yeah.
that I'm going to make sure that they all know
Yeah.
we need to go get it.
And that's how those other plates then fall, and the other one stays spinning, and
Yeah.
everybody
Right.
comes to that plate.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, okay, here's another problem or aspect, which is... it
Are we
just
getting
fell out of
too
my
off?
head.
Should we finish the
Yeah, okay.
the email and then?
It wasn't. There's no email. This is just a topic.
Oh, this is just. Oh, okay.
I had a thought, and it fell out of my head because of the whole spinning plate thing. Go ahead, keep going, and I'll see if I remember it again.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I mean, one of the ways I think it's great to manage it, and one of the things I wish I'd done more with the vampire game specifically, once we started getting like feedback about it, like just keeping, because it's great to have someone writing it down, like the diaries and stuff
Yes,
like that,
yeah.
which is incredibly helpful at the beginning of
But
each game.
the thing with that is, like, Samantha writes very detailed notes of the game as it's going on, and
But if something doesn't come up,
5 sessions ago,
yeah,
okay, there like
She goes back and goes,
it's been now, I don't know what, probably a week and a half, no, longer than that. In game time, it's probably been almost 3 weeks, maybe a month,
Yeah.
since you guys discovered that there's a secret basement place that's recording everything on the island. It's still there.
oh yeah,
I mean, you think you know who's running it, but there might be employees still going there, and that information is going out to somewhere. It may not have
Yeah.
just been going to Sebastian. It may have been going to other people as well.
Right.
You have no idea.
yeah,
And it's still there.
Yeah.
But it hasn't come up in the game.
Right.
So when Samantha reads her recap of it, that might have been 8 sessions ago that came up, and there hasn't been a mention of it since.
Right.
So I think in that case, it's the GM who has to bring it up and says, by the way, and I think the GMs should probably list these things out and have them in like a OneNote or something where you can just say, you know what, here are the things that your characters would not have forgotten,
yeah.
but you as players have.
Yeah, and that was what I was going to come to next. Like, I wish I'd just kept like a list
Right.
and maybe numbered them each week. Like, this is number 1 priority this week. This is, you know,
Sure.
because I think that would have helped, you know, as Prince, you know, to keep things kind of moving, to not let things fall by the wayside. And I don't know if I agree that that's the GM's job. I mean,
It doesn't necessarily have to be.
Yeah.
But I think if the GM isn't helping the players remember that stuff, because
Yeah.
like I said, the characters would remember that
Yeah.
shit. If the GM's not helping them, I don't think it's right for him to punish them for not remembering.
I
that.
think
totally,
you're...
I agree.
I remember what I was going to say. What if the players do actually start forgetting plot lines and stuff that happened? I think your solution is fine, which is every now and again to remind them, say, let's recap things that you guys have done.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that we used to do in the old Eldemy game, this is before we started recording them, a lot of props.
Yeah.
I had a lot of like notes and letters and maps and
That
all
helps.
kinds of things.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember near the end when I don't even remember who was in the game at that point. It had pared down to about 6 people at that point. And I think Bruce had been keeping all of the props.
I had.
Well, no, because was it you? Because
Maybe.
I remember someone opening up a folder and all
Me.
they all
Yeah.
came out, and I didn't do anything as GM for like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Because you guys are pouring through everything and I'm listening and you're like, and you're figuring it out.
Yeah.
You now have enough information. You have all the shit there and you're figuring it out. So I think if you have, of course, it helps if the person who ends up keeping it remembers to bring it every week.
Right.
But which
That's
we had a
fine.
problem with as well.
Yes.
If you're going to give them a plot hook that's going to have long-term ramifications if they don't deal with it right away, give them something physical that at least represents it,
Yeah.
so that they have something to jog their memory.
Yeah.
So they can go in and they can find the letter that led them to realize that there's a big bad guy who wants to summon a demon or
Right.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
And again, players prioritize stuff that's immediate to them.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, like I mean, seriously, we had a coup that we had to deal with, and people's lives were being threatened, and there were, we were being attacked. I mean, quite literally on the forefront. That was all right. Now that that's resolved, we got a bunch of other things, and I don't think we've forgotten everything. I just know that there's priorities. There's also some players that aren't aware of some other things, so that
Yeah.
you can't rely on everybody to remember things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't think Albert was around, because remember, I missed a bunch of sessions when the underground thing was ever discovered. So, you
Oh
can't
yeah,
rely on
your
every
character
player
may
to-
not even know about that.
Exactly.
And Mac and Jesse's characters probably have no idea about the cameras. I think we might have mentioned it to one. I think we mentioned it to Asa when she first arrived, but I don't know if we ever told. I don't know. feel like we told one of
when
them.
when you guys were in the golf course, there was some repercussions about cameras.
There was, yeah,
Okay.
that was, there was a camera like way down
Yeah.
that had caught the fact that had caught
Asa.
no Prince Albert, or not Prince Albert, Prince Albert again, Prince Daniel coming onto the island,
Oh yeah.
and that's when they said, send a strike team right now,
Yeah.
and then the boats leave from Sebastian's place.
That's true.
And they head out. That's why that strike happened, because
We hadn't-
they had
They knew.
spotted it, but because the guys had never addressed the camera thing.
Yeah.
You still haven't.
No.
No.
And that's going to be an ugly fight because
Yeah.
you're fighting in a basement.
Yeah.
No one told me we was going to be fighting in a basement.
I feel like that was sort of a low priority. I don't know, just because it was like we could kind of avoid them. Like it wasn't
Sure.
like a like you have to take care of this now or you're going to die. I mean, it was definitely a disadvantage in that particular fight when we figured that out.
Every secret plan you have, well, not every secret plan, but people can see what you're doing on that island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, the whole Spira Longinus thing, too, that kind of is on hold because we were in the middle of trying to,
There was
make sure we still have the moat to go back to.
There, I brought in a thing for that as
to
well.
remind that in, with the head.
Brought the head back, right?
Yeah.
So that's still out there
I know. And I know it's still out there, but again, it's just not a huge priority yet. I mean,
because it's not here.
and, and things have settled down a bit now. We can start picking up some of these other pieces.
Right.
Best
It's on my to-do list.
Best part of being a new character is I don't have a to-do list.
Right. To-do
I
list.
don't know anything about this, and I give no fucks.
Your to-do list is
Completely separate and unique to me.
and it's take care of me.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is because the moat is no longer controlled by one person anymore. It's basically the Glittering Night runs. Some of that stuff might actually be somebody else's problem.
It's controlled by one person. It's still
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, also spoilers. Like it's been a few sessions since my thing. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
So
Ignore the last few minutes if you haven't.
right.
Okay.
Fight in the basement.
Back
Nah.
in the basement.
yeah, Master Vidar says
Yeah.
the cement truck will fill it right in.
That's the best.
That'd be some pissed off vampires. Oh my god. They can get out of there.
Some of
They-
them
if
might.
they got enough blood.
Eventually.
If they got enough blood and they can pump it, they can probably scratch their way out.
Eventually, yeah. But it would slow them down.
No, I'm all about the cement. Thanks for that. That's a good idea.
It would definitely piss them off.
Yeah.
So,
Fill it full of molten lead.
Yeah. So immediately. Yeah.
that's a lot of... What are you guys going to do with 2 tons of molten lead? Why do you need to keep it hidden? Don't ask questions.
Does holy water work on vampires? No. Okay.
No. There might be a drawback or whatever they call
There
it
is.
that you can take.
I was gonna
That
say you make cement with holy water.
now, I mean, if holy water is being wielded by someone with true faith,
Yeah.
it might have more of an effect. Because true faith,
Yeah, that makes things magical.
right. So, all right. The first email: How to keep players invested between sessions, from Javier in Spain.
Ooh.
Saludos, mis grandes señores el Duce.
That sounds so amazing.
Duce.
It sounds so pretty. It's in like Spanish. Sorry, I'm delighted by that.
Saludos. No, it's from Spain. The S's are
Los mi grandes señores
It's
del
not
Duce.
Catalan.
Italian.
Castilian.
Saludos,
Mis
mis
grandes
grandes
señores
señores
del
del Duce.
Duce. Señores
Duce?
Duce. Del Duce.
I don't know. Del
Duce.
Duce. Javier from Spain here with an RPG question that keeps me awake at night. Without entering into too much detail, I've got a gaming group going since 3 years ago. Lately, we are concluding our first campaign and preparing to move on to our second campaign. Even though my players have been having fun during the game, something has started bothering me a lot. You see, my players enjoy the individual games, by that I mean sessions. While we're playing, they are more or less investing depending on how good the session is going. The thing is, in between sessions, they don't really talk about the campaign in general or the last session. Once they have their fun with the game, they completely forget about it until the next session, and when the next game comes up, except for rare exceptions, they completely forget about the last session. Even if something really emotional affected them during it, we play bi-weekly, so time is not really a problem. Bi-weekly means every other week,
Right.
as opposed to semi-weekly,
Yes.
which would be
Twice a week. Okay.
Help me, Happy Jax. You're my last and best hope. Thanks for the amazing podcast. Javier from Spain.
Time.
I am
time
from
is
Barcelona.
Time is a problem, especially when dealing
Yeah.
with grown-ups. You know, we all have got lives and jobs and stuff, and our brains get full of that, and then we quickly forget. And then when game time comes around, we're like, oh yeah, something. Oh my God.
Have one pick a player.
Yeah.
Do it round robin. If no one is willing to just do it like Samantha does in almost all the games she's in,
Yeah.
pick a player every session and say, if you keep notes during this session and read them at the beginning of the next session, I'll give you an extra 50 XP or 5 XP or something. Just give them a little
That's a
thing.
great idea.
A little thing.
Whatever the
Yeah.
system
And
is.
then the next session, go to the next person. If you keep notes during the game about what transpires and read it in the next session, I'll give you a cookie.
Keegan says, easy. Get a snarky redhead to journal each session with sass and panache.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's a great thing, and I think it would actually be really cool, like Samantha actually keeps a journal if you passed it around.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of a campaign, that's a really cool, like, kind of documentation of the campaign. And I really love, especially, that she does it in character. Mm-hmm. I think that adds a ton to...
Well, she does it with... She doesn't in Vampire. That she just tells the story. But she's writing a diary for the character in Savage Race.
I would argue that... I mean, she doesn't do it in character. It's not like, Dear Diary, this is
Right.
Riley. But it's like, it's Riley. Like,
Yeah.
it is 100%... Like, just because Samantha basically is Riley in real life... Like,
She's kind of typecast.
There are like little Riley comments in there. It's like, and Scully goes and ghouls the
Ew.
dolphins. Sacrifice.
Yeah. Ew. It's so
Yeah.
trashy.
Ew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would argue that it's close enough to me in character. But I think that just adds a ton to it. And I just think it's such a cool thing. And it's been neat to like flip through her journals of the old games, because she's on her second one for Moat now.
Yeah.
She's on her second actual notebook, because
Right.
we've been playing that one so long. And there's like little doodles in there, and like it's just a really cool thing.
And what do you say to somebody that doesn't like that bookkeeping stuff? You know, how do you?
That's why you have the carrot.
Yeah.
So I'll give you extra XP. They got extra XP. They got extra XP. Do you want extra XP? Or do you want to be behind everyone? Because we just go round robin.
Yeah.
And every 4 sessions, you're going to have a chance to do it.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to do it, that's entirely fine. We'll go to the next person. But they're getting bonus XP and you're not. And pretty soon they're going to be awesome and you're going to be...
We did have that problem. I know time is always the problem with L5R because we were playing kind of infrequently, and I do remember there were times we would come back and we were quite literally like,
It
I
was
don't
like
even
2
remember what
months
happened.
later.
Yeah.
And usually it was Tyler, I think, who had the best memory.
Yeah.
I think he was younger and hadn't killed as many brain cells with beer.
It's also a good argument for having the games recorded because I do remember I would go back and listen to.
Start an AP.
Stuff.
That's
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
solution.
Well, even
Or at
if
least
you,
record it.
even if
Yeah.
you don't,
Yeah.
just having a recorder there,
Absolutely.
and you can get little audio recorders for reasonable prices now. I mean, the ones we're using.
on your
I didn't start
phone.
recording.
Phone
Yeah.
records.
I didn't
Yeah.
start recording. See what I did there? I'm gonna have to scrape it off the audio.
Oh, okay, good.
I do that. I have to do that like once or twice.
You
a month.
recording now?
Yeah.
No, I'm
No,
not.
we'll
I'm not
just
even gonna
scrape
bother
it,
because
yeah.
we've been talking.
We'll
for
grab
a
it
half
off
hour.
YouTube. the YouTubes. But yeah, your phone records things. You don't even need to buy us an extra thing.
But then
Right.
you just have to take the time to listen to it
Yeah.
to recap. And
Yes.
you can fast forward through stuff.
And that's the nice thing about doing it with a podcast. Most podcast players now will allow you to listen at 1.25 speed, 1.5 speed,
Yeah.
twice speed.
We have
And you-
listeners who do that, and they're like, "You sound so high."
No, it doesesn't make your voice go high. It just makes you speed up.
Yeah.
But I'll do that. Like if we take a big hiatus, like we did with the vampire game, and then we came back after fair, 2 months without
I
playing.
know.
Yeah.
I know.
I listened to the whole last session. Then like, okay, now I remember exactly what's happening. I also tend to write notes when I'm GMing that night. I
Yeah.
recap the important things I think are important
Yeah.
during the course of the game.
That might be something that maybe the GM, I think I'll encourage myself now, is that when a new plot line comes around, I'll make a note of it myself and put it on like the back of the character sheet or whatever, so that I know that I can go back. It's like, oh yeah, here are these dangly plot lines that we haven't dealt with yet.
Right. Now, if you have a character who's, by his character flaw is that he's forgetful, I wouldn't. Do
Well,
that.
yeah, but
But most people,
That's a great idea.
if they're confronted with a situation that is going to be dangerous to them, to their livelihood or to their well-being, they're not going to forget them.
right.
So it's okay to take crib notes on that stuff because it'll happen.
Absolutely.
I don't. Do you think that this is a common problem that he's describing in his
Yes.
email
Absolutely.
about people for
100%.
just
Absolutely.
they're invested, they're emotionally invested in the game, and then they leave. They're like, oh, they're drained, and
You've
then
got busy lives, you've got work, you've got family, you got all the stuff that you're doing, and you're only playing every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
that doesn't make them bad people.
No, not at all. But and I mean, who was it? Someone mentioned in the chat room that they Virik says I text my group questions throughout the week to keep them thinking about it. So maybe
That's cool.
in the last session I might say to Mac, I might text Mac and say, hey, you had this interaction with these people. What's your character thinking about? That doesn't even have to be like a quiz.
Yeah.
But it can be, this happened, and for the GM especially, that can kind of give you some direction.
Sure.
Where the characters might be going, and I'd love to know when the players say, "This is what we're planning to do next session." Like we end on a cliffhanger or something, and everyone's like, "Okay, yeah, we're gonna storm in and fight them." Then I know as the GM, I need to have the whole combat prepared.
right.
Right.
I need to have all my stats for all my bad guys and maybe have a map ready and all that stuff for the next session. So it's really nice as a GM to kind of have an idea what direction they're going to go. I think I've asked the players in the Bloodblade and Tusk game that a couple of times. What are you guys going to do next? And they'll say, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And that way, or maybe it wasn't that. It was Vast Dominions. Maybe it was in
Oh,
Vast Dominions.
yeah.
But I would ask, what direction are you going? Especially with that game, because it's all these different planets and moons, and there's all kinds of places you
Yeah.
can go. And you have a ship, so there's no stopping you from
Right.
going anywhere. So, but that at least gives me an idea, okay, this is the planet I need to prep next. I need to figure out, A, what's there, and what interesting plot hooks might be there, and what's going on with all the other plot hooks during that time.
Yeah.
So, but that's, it's nice to know that stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think what his problem here is incredibly common.
Yeah.
And I think I would use try the carrot thing first. See if you can get them to just write, especially if they write their journals in character.
Yeah.
And just every week, maybe pass a book around from player to player. And I mean, I think that we've had people mention that years ago when we first started the show that they used to do that. They had a journal that they passed around,
Yeah.
and everyone wrote about it in character. And the dwarf didn't like the elf, and the elf didn't like the dwarf, so they're always writing snarky comments about each other when it's their turn to write it and stuff
Right.
like that. And it's fun. And
Yeah.
then by the time the session is done, you've got a nice actual journal of the entire game experience,
Yeah.
which is cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's ever going to read it, but one day you'll find it in a box somewhere,
Oh, yeah,
20 or
look at
30
this
years
one.
later, and like, look what I found. I mean, I would love it. I mean, I gave away most of my gaming stuff when I
Right.
stopped gaming from the old days, but I had shit that went back a decade and a half.
Yeah.
It's all gone, but
That's cool. Can you imagine having one of like the Inukai game? That'd be so amazing.
oh yeah.
That
Well,
is
now
cool.
we have them recorded.
Yeah, I know, but it's still that's like a cool thing.
Yes, I probably still have all that stuff I produced digitally, so I
Yeah.
probably still have all the files.
Yeah. One thing that Jib does for our Masks game that's here on every other Monday night, at the beginning of the session, he rolls a die, and we each have a number, and whatever the die lands on, it's your job to kind of recap,
Okay.
which I know there's extra pressure to actually get it right because we stream it and people are watching.
Right.
But it also is kind of helpful because like there's times where we don't remember, so we just all kind of talk through it at the beginning, which is another. If nobody wants to write things down, like literally just being like, okay, that usually doesn't even take 5 minutes. Usually it's like 3 minutes. Or just, okay, yeah, we did this, and then we did this. No, we did this. Oh, that's right. And then just having people talk through it, too, is actually incredibly helpful.
I remember we did that with Inukai. We would start, somebody would start, and then it would all jog everybody's memories.
Right.
There was a lot of, oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's super helpful, too, and really low maintenance for everybody.
Right.
If you don't have anybody who wants to write things. And then for that game also, those of you who are our Patreon subscribers, I think at the $2 level and above, we have individual diaries for that game, which is kind of cool because we don't do it during the game, because I find that's distracting. Like if I'm trying to write things down during the game, I think I'd lose track of things.
Yeah, while you're writing down what just happened, something else is happening that you're missing.
Exactly. Right. Samantha's amazing at it, but I don't have that talent. But we go through at the end, and just be in between game sessions at some point, we're supposed to write a diary entry from our character's point of view of what happened. So some of us write, it actually, like, I only can read my own, so I haven't read the others, but we each keep our own, and the GM can read all of them. But it really shows you, like, the prioritizing. Like, my character's really affected by these things, and it really gets you back into where your character's headspace was for the next game. And it's not very long. We usually do, like, I don't know, maybe other people write pages, I don't. But mine's like, I'm a teenager writing a journal, or writing a diary entry. Dear diary,
My
everything
life
sucks.
Right.
I hate everything. So-and-so's kind of cute, but... it's like a paragraph or something. So it takes like 10 minutes to do.
Right.
So, and it's helpful. We have
all right.
suggestions? Okay.
No, that's it. That's all.
Well, there is no elegant way for record keeping other than recording it and listening to it later, because then it involves nobody has to lift a finger to do it, and there's no responsibility.
To re-listen to a whole
It does. Yes, I don't know, and hopefully you have enough time and driving kids to soccer or whatever to catch up. But I'm just saying, in order to remember what happens, you have to write it down. You have to document it somehow.
Yeah.
The Ulysses 87 says he also asks the players to recap to the best of their memory, because often their perception of events is very different from the GM.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely true and often hysterical.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's the best thing about having the players responsible for it.
That's at the one session where I recapped that Samantha wasn't here for the thing. I did everything from Lambert's point of view.
So funny.
And like all of the stuff that the dog boy was doing is like, and I shit you not, he gave him back his gun.
Yeah, that was awesome. It was so good.
Okay, playing. Thank you, Javier from Spain.
Thank you. That was the sexiest intro I think we've had for the show.
Playing when having the full picture from Nicholas in Sweden.
Nicholas in Sweden. I guess I will do this one.
All right.
Hi, Nicholas Swede here with another amazing email. My group started playing our first campaign about 4 years ago. That campaign is still running, and a few characters still alive are basically gods. We have battled most of the Warhammer mythos.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Sometimes we need a break, checking out new systems, worlds, and characters. Sometimes this works, but mostly it doesn't. Our best vacation was playing the Street Fighter RPG, while the worst has been grim fantasy and worlds similar to Warhammer. I believe I found a reason why. And once we know the problem, we can start working on the solution.
I was actually just a quick pause here. I was at the local gaming store, and there was this book out there that had really cool artwork on it, and there were a couple of them at our game store, and I'm like, I didn't understand it. It's called Symbaroum. So I went home and did a little research on it. It's like a Swedish or a Scandinavian RPG. It's like dark. I know, Simba. I've never heard of it. The artwork's really cool. So all of you Scandinavian listeners, if you guys have played it, let us know what it's like, because I've read a couple of reviews and they're not real inclusive. I don't even know what the dice mechanics like.
They're Swedish, so I don't know what they say.
But the whole thing's a grim fantasy world similar to Warhammer. This seems like that's the game, because it's pretty dark and grim.
Right. I'm actually leaning towards getting one of the Warhammer role-playing games, because I've started buying miniatures and painting them. I'm almost done with my Marines. And I just bought the Dreadnought dude right there. Because Zachary looked at it and said, Dad, we need to get one of these.
Giant robot dad.
They're really powerful. But it came with a book. I bought the Dark Imperium, I think is what the box set is called. And it comes with, I don't know, probably 50 minis or something like that in it.
Sounds
But it comes with all the rules and the cards for all the units and stuff. But it came with this big hardcover book, which they're Warhammer's books. They're like $60, $70 books.
Yeah, well,
each one.
they're thick too. Yeah.
Yeah, but artwork in it is just total eye candy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pictures of like minis, like here's some dude's army, but there's also a lot of illustrations of battles and stuff like that. But that whole book is fluff about the universe.
World. Yeah.
Mythico2 in the chat room says, Stu, wait, 4th edition of WFRP is coming out at the end of the year.
I will wait then. See, thank you. What would have happened is I would have bought it,
right,
All
and
of
then
it.
I would have discovered that that's
Yes.
usually what happens. I
Dropped
felt-
120 on a couple of books and like, oh, they're outdated already. No. Yeah. Sorry, K-Mate. I just that
That's
was
okay.
something that I wanted to find out about.
All right. So, and once we know the problem, we can start working on a solution. Problem: having the full picture. I think back to old games is one of my favorites. I believe there is more to it than simply nostalgia. For me, playing is about exploring. Similar locations, characters, politics lead to similar problems, which can cause repetitive gameplay.
Sure.
We lose the sense of not knowing what to expect. More experienced players know to expect traps in every tomb and bandits in every forest. This starts to feel more as common sense than as experience. Knowledge makes the world smaller and less frightening, while ignorance makes everything more dangerous. Example, the first time facing a skeleton, we learned that the living dead handles the fiery burn much better than whoever wrestles with it. It was me.
Yeah, grappling
Good job.
a zombie.
A burning
never good.
zombie.
A
yeah.
burning zombie, right.
If we would encounter something undead today, everybody knows exactly what to do. And it only takes one brave soul to micromanage strategy, and the immersion is lost. They feel less scary, so much, in fact, that one can wonder how a paladin can be afraid of such a minor threat. P.S. While avoiding metagaming, we are basically fracking the experience. Pretending to be afraid, surprise...
Faking the experience.
Oh, faking the experience, sorry.
think.
Yeah, it's supposed to be faking, sorry.
You've been watching a lot of Battlestar
I
Galactica.
did, yeah. I've been rewatching that in my brain, just kind of put it in there. Pretending to be afraid, surprise, or in awe to enhance the experience for other players. PPS, ignorance is bliss? Question mark? That's an interesting point.
That's what you just got to mess with expectations.
Yeah.
I kind of get what he's saying though too. Is like
Yeah.
the more you play, the more things become tropes and habits and stuff. Like
Sure.
when you first play, when you're first stepping into that river, everything's exciting and new.
Right.
Right. And bandits in the forest. Oh my God, I didn't think about that. There's bandits in the forest. Now we're like, I'm not going to that forest.
Yeah.
There's gonna be bandits in there.
There's totally bad.
Or if we're going in, we're setting watches.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And I get it. You get older, you get jaded, you get wiser. I mean, even playing MMOs. After a while, you do a couple of quests, and you're like, "This is kind of just the same thing over and over again." Of these types of quests or whatever.
So many times
You can never
gather-
go back to that first innocent couple of years when RPGs were new and it was an exciting, cool thing. And I don't know if how you can recapture
you
that.
can change settings.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can you can go from playing a typical European fantasy game to playing something like L5R
or
a science
Vampire,
fiction,
yeah, which is
or a science fiction game, or there's all kinds, a pulp game, and they all have their own tropes and they're unique.
that is true. Yeah, it's just, and I guess that's what he's saying that they've been doing. It's just
That's
sort
why
of like taking
a
little
lot
vacations.
of that's why like the Savage Worlds diehards who only play Savage Worlds are very excited when new setting books come out.
Sure.
Because a new setting book means new tropes.
Yeah.
Right.
New ideas, new thoughts.
Exactly. And the other thing is you can mess with those expectations too. I mean, I did the same thing in the Eldemy game.
Yeah.
You guys went in and went after a bunch of goblins. They're goblins. I think they're goblins.
I think so.
Yeah, and you found out, these goblins are guarding this guy's place because their families are being held prisoner.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not what we expected.
Yeah. Maybe we shouldn't murder them all.
Right. Or take a big hard twist on a setting like Blood, Blade, and Tusk. It's like, okay, yeah, it's kind of a European fantasy, but it definitely takes place in medieval Europe around the time that there would be crusades and inquisitions.
Yeah.
That totally colors your fantasy game differently, because now you're not dealing with
Yeah.
Grumsh and all the other D&D gods. Now there's one, and there's a big scary church that's in charge of the whole damn thing. And if you don't toe the line, Oh, you're a heretic. You might be a witch.
I mean, it's after a while though. I mean, you're gonna run out of ideas. I mean, I get it. You can make the first a band of bandits like Robin Hood, right? They're out there because the sheriff and the local government are corrupt, and they're trying to just make a living and redistribute the wealth that these people are hoarding or whatever. But you can't do that for every group of bandits.
Or they might be out there because of desperation, because they're starving to death.
There's that too. But after a while, it's going to be like, well, these guys are actually just bandits.
Right.
I agree with changing games. That's really the way to go. But that's, again, it's another investment. Everybody's going to buy books. Somebody's going to memorize the rules.
One guy.
Okay.
Usually a GM.
And some people like. Oh, it's just very sad.
Very sad.
And like some people like playing in a system they know.
Absolutely.
Like you were saying, like Savage Worlds has a bunch of different types of settings. D&D not so much. It's kind of all the same flavor for the most part.
No, there's a couple settings for D&D. Not a lot of them.
No, there's like Eberron versus like the right, but you're not going to get like. You're not going to be able to skin D&D with Star Wars. I mean, I'm sure somebody on the internet's done it. Who knows?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, if you're playing a generic system,
yeah.
Most of them have multiple settings that are going to have their own tropes and their own assumptions.
Yeah.
Game world assumptions, and I mean, GURPS. Jesus, I mean, you go back into the 3rd edition, the high times for GURPS. Mm-hmm. You've got setting books for
years.
Yeah, you've got
decades.
You could play for decades.
Yeah. With
all of those world books, and a lot of them are still in print and still available in PDF. Savage Worlds as well. Hero, I don't know what's going on with Hero.
I don't know.
But I mean,
math. Lots of math.
There's a lot of math, but any of those games, or any game that has any kind of a generic thing where you can put it in a unique setting, it's going to have its own feel.
And that's kind of the solution, I think, because everything we sort of mentioned, he says, we take a break, we try out new games, some were better than others, but he says mostly it never really solved it. Yeah, he says this is the reason why, and it's because it's about exploring new locations, and everything seems to be new. And you're right. If you take twists, for example, why don't you all play orcs?
They don't have to be about exploration.
Well, no, that's only one. He goes, it's exploration, politics. They all lead to similar problems, which cause repetitive gameplay. But we lose the sense of not knowing what to expect. More experienced players know what to expect traps, so knowledge makes the world smaller.
Yeah, I think as players become more experienced, because I can see especially like Vampire, having just switched characters, that was weird to be, because we've been building those characters for so long. I can see why players would get invested and not want to just suddenly switch systems.
Sure.
It's like they want to keep playing with those characters. So I would say, stop relying so much on the environment. Like the forest, maybe don't even worry about the forest anymore. Like the travel through the forest. At some point, you're powerful enough that even if you meet bandits, it's not going to be a big deal.
Right.
I would say that's a great time to start pulling things like you do, Stu, from people's backstories. Mm-hmm. Things that have more emotional punch that they haven't necessarily run into before. That then they have more risk because their family's involved, or
instead of orcs raiding a town, orcs raid the town your family lives in.
Right. Exactly. So it's right there, and that's when you can start pulling from the backstories and from the things that they've already done. Like, hey, remember that, mayor you saved? He's dead now, but his daughter's running the town and remembers you as these amazing heroes and calls upon you for XYZ. And so while it may still be a lot of the same, if you really break down, it's still a wizard that they're fighting. It's like, okay, but this wizard now has emotional capital, and there's danger in that for you and the players.
See, I find actually changing classes and making new characters helps me a lot. I know with MMOs, you get really used to fighting a certain way or solving problems a certain way with your skill set. Suddenly you're playing let's say you go from a fighter to a mage, or to completely different things. You have completely different solutions you don't know your powers yet, you're still discovering. It's exciting, it's different, it's new.
Yeah.
And I think you can do the same in the role-playing game, which is you know what, if you're tired of your character, let's retire him or put him on pause, or maybe we'll have a second game that takes place in a different part of the world. Play something completely different. Make a mage, make a cleric, make a thief. Play something completely different than this other character. Maybe you can bounce back and forth, but it kind of cleanses the palate. And I kind of get it, because after a while you just start because there's a sameness to
Sure.
Yeah.
to that character, and
Yeah.
especially if you played it for a long time.
And someone mentioned Traveler. That's a great way to mix things up.
Oh, yeah.
Randomly generated character that
Yeah.
you really have no control over.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you play that. That's different.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're used to making the character you want to make, and you always make Rangers,
Yep.
oh, look, I made a junk salesman who can't shoot.
Right. And yeah, exactly. It happens.
And talk to your players too, because you can pull some great kind of tricks and tropes from comic books. Like, how often do superheroes get depowered? Mm-hmm. Things like that. Talk to them, be like, hey, how do you guys, like, talk to them before you do it. It's not cool
Yeah.
to just depower their characters. Be like, hey, I have this idea for a storyline. I wanted, how do you guys feel about being depowered for this one particular arc to get back your powers? Could be fun. You could pull out those first character sheets you had when you started the game, and it's like a little bit of nostalgia, and then they have to work to get their superpowers back or whatever it is. Maybe they're a paladin who pissed off their gods, and now they have to. The group has to go on a quest to get to redeem him in the eyes of his deity or whatever. So things like that are neat too, to mix it up with kind of inter-party problems rather than constantly relying on those external forces.
Yep.
It is hard to keep things fresh. It is hard to not recycle the tropes, because by nature of fantasy novels and stuff, I mean, Conan and Elric have many of the same characteristics and even many of the same plot lines in many of their stories. So how do you make them unique and different each time you play these types of games?
Yeah. Sure.
That's a real trick, as the more experience you get, the more you're like, oh, well, my character wouldn't know that undead are afraid of fire or really react well to fire, but I know.
Yeah.
And how do I...
Right.
We're never going to regain that innocence we once had.
No.
No, and that's fine, because, I mean, the games I'm playing, that we're playing today, compared to games from the teen years,
Yeah.
they're way better.
Yeah. I
mean,
think so.
Maybe that sense of wonder isn't quite there.
Yeah.
But I mean, certainly the drama and the tension of the game, and the interesting, the uniqueness of the stories is much more interesting now, I think, than it was when we were
I
crawling
think our
through
attention
dungeons.
spans are a little longer too. We could actually play the same characters for more than a couple of weeks.
Sure.
Yeah. And
Right.
everybody can afford beer.
Yeah.
Right.
That seems to help a
Or
lot.
can buy beer.
And buy beer.
Buy beer and can drink it. Yes. All right. So it's my turn now.
Yep.
Failure of yes ending or just crazy players from James.
Yes.
Yeah.
Done.
Greetings, purveyors of drunken sage-like advice. Yes, it's only sage-like.
No. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Sage-adjacent. I've been
Sage-ish.
Sage-ish. I've been listening to the show for a couple of years now, and try as I might, I think I fail at employing the yes and technique. Or is it that I have crazy, unrealistic, disturbed players?
Yes.
Set scene.
Scene set.
A group of adventurers have returned to a long open market looking for a stranger that one of them has spotted much earlier in the day. The man was a perceived cultist, and the group's cleric had glimpsed wearing a hidden talisman that looked similar to one worn by an evil cult that they were fighting. I start off with the thought, the guy is gone. The cleric's player had knowingly let time lapse. He rolls a die to determine his reactions to situations. If they want to find this guy, they're now going to have to earn the next clue. Come on, give me something in the form of some investigation, some investigative method or thought. Okay, I have to parse through this sentence because I'm not quite sure what it is he's saying here. The cleric's player had knowingly let time lapse. He rolls to determine reactions to situations.
Yeah, I think he's like when Bill was playing in our.
Oh, okay. So
it's like when he. Oh, am I crazy right now?
Okay.
So he's rolling
Right.
to say, "Hey, am I distracted by a butterfly?" It's like, I don't know.
okay,
He
so
rolls
this
for
guy's
ADHD.
got all right. All right.
So now that they lost track of the guy,
Yeah.
now if they want to find him, he wants him to earn the next clue.
Right. Okay.
But he would like them to do some sort of investigation.
Do you want to act this out?
No. I was just. I just.
Well, there's
No,
a
there's
script.
a script there.
now.
Oh, okay. All right.
This is
okay.
to illustrate.
Okay.
Yes. So you be the GM, I'll be the player.
So me. You arrive at the market. It is well after dinner, and while businesses have tapered off, there is still activity with the market. What do you do?
We look for the provisioner that the guy was talking to.
Okay, you go to his stall, but you find someone else is occupying it. What do you do? Come on, investigate.
Okay.
Well,
Come on.
well, look.
That's not yes ending. Why is he not there? Why not have the provisioner there? Sorry, go. Scene, go ahead.
Well, we look around the market for the cultist.
What? You're not even going to talk to the merchant occupying the stall. Okay.
But you just said that it's not the same guy.
Roll me a perception check behind the GM screen. Yawn. Natural 20. Well, shit. I'll give it to him. Me. You see the guy far across the market conducting business with a horse trader. What do you do?
I go over to him and stick my pan flute into his back and whisper for him to come with me. Is that a pan flute?
Is that
or
a,
are you just
is that
happy
a
to see
gun?
me?
Yeah. Do we have guns? Okay.
That's not in the script. I'm sorry. I'm going
Roll
up.
an intimidation check. Roll fails. The scene plays
Pan
out.
flute. That's the.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you
The
holding, a Gatling gun?
Zamfir. The scene plays out.
Is that a 19-barrel gun?
Some bizarre. How do you think this would go? Really? Me. What are you doing?
I put him in a headlock and try to drag him off to an alleyway.
Me. Roll athletics. Fail. Me. Okay. Not sure. Someone reacted bizarre off the wall actions. The result.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well done. Well done.
Stu brought up some very good points there, which is you weren't actually yes-anding their situation. So.
Yeah.
Give him the guy. Give him the
Yeah.
guy he
What?
talked to. Said, "Oh yeah, he was here. Yeah, he bought something. He's headed out of town."
And why would they have to earn this thing? I mean, what was it? Why was that important to start? You know, it's like they have to earn this. I mean, why not give it to them?
We're going to go to the stall
up to a point.
where we saw the guy buying something.
Right.
Is the guy who was selling stuff to there? Yes.
And
He smiles when you walk up.
right.
He kind of yes and him because he was still in the marketplace.
Right, but
Right.
when he's
It's
showing
just
his fault,
making it
when he's
more
showing
complicated than
as their
necessary.
fault, I would say you could have just made it. You never know. See, the thing is, the GM, you know everything that's going on. The players don't.
No.
We're dumb. Players
We
are
oftentimes
idiots.
forget.
Yeah.
Or I mean, what seems like an obvious clue to a GM is not an obvious clue to a player.
Not at all.
They only have the information that you've given them. So clues that seem obvious to you, having the whole picture in your head, that's meaningless.
So
That's
we don't even know. We don't know who's controlling the cult. We don't know what the cult's things are. We just know that it's a guy in robes wearing and we're going to look at each other and go, is that a cult? Is that the local religion?
No, it says.
Should that be important?
Yeah. But as players,
I
we're
know.
gonna be dumb.
I know.
Like
That's
he explained it correctly in the thing, but as players, you'd be like, I don't know. I forgot. I don't know what that means. Like, I forgot what I was going to say.
Perceived. He was a cultist of the god Perceived. He's a perceived cultist. Sorry.
the result. The accused cultist calls out for the guards, and in response, the player continues to try to drag him away from the market. Continued failed grapple checks give the cultist enough time to attract guards. The player is arrested and thrown into the drunk tank.
Sure.
The other players at the table, wanting to avoid what they perceived as a fiasco, I would agree, and have their characters remain with the gathering witnesses, and acted as if the first player was a complete stranger. I switched focus
bastards.
to the JLPC to the remaining. I switched focus from the JLPC to the remaining PCs. They're all.
Yeah.
Don't know, I have no idea. No idea who that guy was.
Oh yeah, I just came up and grabbed onto him like
Yeah.
a crazy person.
believe it.
That was nuts.
I was afraid.
Yeah.
After the game, I spoke to another gamer, not in the group, who is a GM, and he suggested that I should have had the guards arrest both player and cultist and have them put into adjoining cells.
That's a fascinating idea. There.
Well, while I wished I had thought of the above suggestion, I would have cut the other players from play, and I doubt the exchange in prison would have gone much better.
Well, if they still need to get to the cultist, now they know exactly where he is.
Yeah.
And they got a prison break.
And
They
they've
got to get their guy out.
and one of the other players has eyes on him.
Yeah.
And the cultists are going to go get their guy out.
Right.
So
Yeah.
now all of a sudden you got a bunch of rogue priests and your group rumbling in the jail.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, in that situation, if you're this is not a town full of lawlessness and stuff like that, which it sounds like kind of what he was running. You start a fight, guards are going to show up. So let the players know,
Yeah.
because you don't know what the players' expectations are
Yeah.
in that situation, unless you've gone to a great extent to explain how things work in this city, and they've heard you and listened.
I think they've heard you.
If
That's a big thing.
right, yeah.
Well, sometimes they just don't care. They don't actually believe that there's going to be consequences.
But
It's
you
a
can
lot of
stop
time
and
there
say,
isn't.
"Hey, you're accosting someone," and you notice that there's guards around Are you sure you want to do that?
Because you've changed our mind that way a couple of times. You say things like,
Sure.
You remember that this is like a lawful city and the guards do not take the fighting in the streets. Remember that?
Right.
Oh, yeah. So are the guards actually watching me? Yes. Yes, they are.
Yeah, one of them is
And-
actually staring at you.
Yeah, and it should be in your description of the scene. Hey, you show up to the market and you notice a few guards around keeping the peace, and like when they enter that situation, especially if they're kind of desperate and things aren't going well for them, it's always good to remind them of some of those soft boundaries.
Yep, absolutely.
When we're done with this, we can
Yeah.
review what the yes and what like the way to yes and the situation. Maybe we can
we
reread
did
it
that a
again.
couple sessions.
Yes anding. Now my group's makeup is largely made up of players that are returning to the hobby after being away a couple of decades,
Those are the best people.
or are fairly new to the hobby. I have a single veteran player in the group that in the past groups was more of a follower than a leader. I've asked her to step up, being that she's the vet. So my question is, am I doing it wrong? How do you shape the minds of new-ish players? Not all challenges should be solved by violence.
Murder hobo is a term for a
They
reason.
want to. I mean, most games. The book's this big. That much of the book is the combat section, and players see that and they're like, "Oh, this is interesting. I'm going to build a character because that's obviously what's prioritized by the game." And that's a lot of games,
Yeah.
right? Not just D&D, but a lot of games. Like
I have
that.
a barbarian fighter. He's got an intelligence of 6, and
Right.
but he's very good with swords.
Yeah.
What do you mean you want me to talk my way out of this situation?
The players are going to give you a clue as the kind of game they want by the kind of characters they make. If they're made fighters,
Yeah, and
fights.
newer players, most of them have probably grown up on video games where violence is always the answer. So they've
it's
been
the only answer.
Yeah, that's been trained into them, especially if they're playing WoW and things like that and then trying to move into this. Like, you always kill everything in your path to get whatever you need for your quest.
I'm going to talk to the rat.
Yeah, so early on in the game...
EverQuest.
Yeah. Make it so... early on in your game, there's some things that they can't solve by violence.
Right.
Because if everything in the beginning is, oh, you kill it, okay, great job, you won. Okay, you kill it, great job, you won. Oh, here's a complex problem where you have to talk to people.
Right.
Like, that's going to be weird. They're not going to jump straight to the answer.
Or you could have a situation where they need to get something from someone.
Yeah.
And the person isn't being violent and isn't being confrontational, but they're like, but that's mine.
I think that's what he was trying to set up here, where there's
Right.
an investigative thing, and they basically, they resorted to violence and basically stick them up.
But he started the investigation with a no.
Yes, and I think that might be part of the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think if they'd walked up and were able to get some information from that first guy,
Right.
they still probably would have attacked the cultists because
Oh, look, a breadcrumb.
Yeah, but already in that situation, if they're looking for what they are perceiving as a bad guy, they're probably going to start with violence. So in your game previous to that, you should start having things where it's not necessarily a bad guy at the end of their social challenge. Where they, like you were saying, where someone's like, oh, you go to the local shopkeep and he, is a kind, he supports the orphanage, but he has the magic item that you need. He's like the nicest guy ever. Everybody loves him.
Right.
Are you going to bash his face in and steal the item? If so, we're playing with assholes and skip and don't play with them
Right.
anymore.
Or murder hobos.
Murder hobos.
Or teenagers.
Yeah, or teenagers. So start having more stuff like that in there where they have to start using those things. And you can have a conversation with them about that too.
Sure.
I don't know if I agree with asking the veteran player to step up if she's kind of a follower player. That's not necessarily a fair thing to put her in the position to do. Because, she can give advice. Like, that's great to say, hey, can you just give them advice? But asking her to be a party leader when that's not the kind of player she is, that's then taking away her fun. It's making it a job.
Right.
Yeah. I
Some
kinda
of us
agree.
like to be bossy, and some of us don't.
Let me finish this so we can.
Yeah.
I've had the thought that this group would be best not given investigative games, and instead just run straightforward murder hobo save the day scenarios. But will that really create creative / problem solving players that our hobby is known for creating? Plus, I don't believe I'd really enjoy running those sessions. PS drink, PPS drink again because I've cut back.
Give them both. I would. That's what I would. I would do both of them. I mean, if you're not interested in running a hack and slash game, you shouldn't be expected to run a hack and slash game.
Yeah.
Right.
But if all your players are expecting a hack and slash game, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Props help a lot.
Yeah.
One of the things you can do to mitigate that is to give them maps, to give them letters, to give them puzzles.
or parts of letters, and they have to find and figure it out, or something in code. And now all of a sudden they're going to be like, for example, when I did the Freak Show Grendel game, I just did a straightforward substitution code for runic letters. So basically they translated this runic script they found, because I gave them a key that they'd found in the woman's apartment. They were able to translate what the note said. Everybody at the table was in on it, looking at it, looking up words, and all of a sudden they were all having an invested time. There was no killing going on. They were trying to solve a problem. I think that helps immerse them and teaches them that there's more to this game than just rolling up there and smacking things around.
Sure. Absolutely.
Eventually they did get to a combat where they smacked him around, but up to that point there was this trail that they followed.
And the other thing, I mean, it's okay for the GM to give them suggestions as well.
Yeah.
Like if they decide they want to rough up the cultist, what?
No, keep learning.
If they say they want to rough up the cultist, maybe say, there's a couple of guards, and one of them has kind of been looking at you a little bit. Maybe you might want to split up and have someone distract him if you're going to try that.
Yeah.
Go take him to the bar and get him drunk.
Right.
Right.
There you go. Ulysses87 in the chat room says, sorry, I just lost it. My primary group used to be that way, but they eased out of it by encountering NPCs way out of their league. A villain who not only wants to defeat and interrogate a higher level wizard who offers to turn at the deck of many things. So having them go up against, you go into the wizard shop. This is obviously a mage who, you don't say he's level 5 million, but
Right.
you just you probably will get fucked up if you mess with it. So then they have to use their brain rather than their brawn. Things like that. That's another good tactic too.
I used to just attack things because that was what happened, but as I'm older now,
Your character has a sword.
I find
Every
it-
problem is a neck.
or even in superhero games, you roll in and you punch it,
Right.
before you don't even ask questions. As I've gotten older, I find it more fun to try to not necessarily talk my way out of situations, but talk into a situation, find out what's going on. Why is this happening? Why?
Win with words.
Or just, because I know that there's deeper meanings to stuff than just, because if you just roll in and conk everybody out, you're not going to know why the cultists were in that temple in the first place. You
Right.
killed everybody. Now all of a sudden there's still a big hole in your plot. They don't know. Well, we killed the cultists. Yeah, but why were they there? What were they getting? Were they going to summon an elder god? You don't know. You killed them all.
Yeah.
If you got them all.
If you got them all.
You got this chapter.
Right.
All right.
Oh, and Jen Human in the chat room says, don't mess with old people in games. Heh.
Right. Was it treachery and cunning, or treachery and age will make up for youth and idealism every time, or youth and energy every
Yeah.
time?
And that was from James. Is that right, James? Yeah. Thank you, James.
Thank you. Good email.
Going too far with dice fudging from Allervant.
Okay, I'm going to ask my wife, the next game we have is to make fudge in the shape of dice.
I've got those dice
awesome.
molds, but they're giant. That would be a giant thing of fudge.
I see no problem with that.
I make cakes for them.
You could cut them in half. So
You
that
could make
have,
D6s easy out of fudge.
yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be super easy.
That'd be super easy, yeah. Yeah.
Paint them with that edible paint.
Or just, I think, can't you get just half of one so that you just make a little fudge dice?
You can
Come
do a bunch of
on.
stuff. We could do amazing things. All
Hello,
sugar.
hello, Happy Jackers. Thank you all thank you for all the GMing advice you have given me over the past few years. Since I started listening to your podcast, I gained the confidence to get behind the screen in a superhero campaign, and most of my players appreciate the results. But I have,
and yes, to get jamming again, I was just applying for
That's what we
superhero
were-
games.
for the GM.
but I have,
Oh.
I have two issues that I could use your advice. First is the one player who doesn't seem happy with things. I've dangled multiple plot hooks. Here's a plot hook. Take it. In front of her character, and she hasn't taken a liking to any of them. The plots include a murder mystery, the origins of her character's powers, and helping a ghost child. But they've all fallen flat.
Wow, yeah. You even have one that was a personal, where
That's
did your
the
character's
first
powers
thing
come from,
you're
right?
gonna
Wow, I would have
suggest, right?
jumped all over that.
Okay, now
I
we have
think-
to think of something else
Yeah.
to say. Okay, keep going.
I think part of it is the nature of a character who is more of a lone wolf type. Oh, God.
Are you a little traumatized by lone wolf types at the moment?
lone wolf characters. Well, you can play a lone wolf character, but you got to play the lone wolf character right. If you're not playing the lone wolf character right, all
just
you're doing
fucking
is
annoying.
causing a huge amount of work for the GM to try to figure out why you're still with the party.
Yeah.
If you're truly playing a lone, like really playing a lone wolf character.
You just leave.
And the other players too. It's
Right,
really hard on the other
exactly.
players.
Right.
Because like they're trying to include you, but then they feel like their characters wouldn't
I
trust
think
you.
it's a good rule for a first-time player, to the GM, to say the first-time player says, you're not allowed to make a lone wolf character.
Yeah.
I want you to make someone who's got family
Mm-hmm.
and friends and likes to talk to people and is nice. Start with that.
Yes.
Don't make Strider,
Yeah.
make Bilbo.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, no, Strider is a lone wolf, but he also has a lot of motivation to help and be with the party. Like, he is their guardian. Like, it is his job
Right.
to make sure everybody else. So I'm sorry,
never just-
like the Tolkien, like
But
clarification.
Bilbo,
Right,
let's go have tea.
right. But Bilbo is the one who ends up running
Strider's
off all
never
the-
going to invite someone
And they're
to
not
tea.
in the same.
They're in the same world.
Yeah.
Fine.
Bilbo's
Fine.
alive.
Bilbo, don't make Boromir.
Yeah. There.
Okay, there you go.
I'm glad we ironed that one out.
It's very stressful.
Make Harry Dresden, don't make his brother.
Yes, there. Excellent. Don't make Batman. Cyber Everything says, I specifically told the new people, don't make Batman.
Don't make Batman.
Or Wolverine.
No
or
Batman
Wolverine.
or Wolverine. That's an excellent way.
I mean, it's great if you're watching a movie or a TV
Sure.
show or
Yeah.
reading a comic book, but in a role-playing game,
Pain in the ass.
it's
Right.
It-
But the
it-
comic
it's-
book's called Wolverine, and he's like a lone wolf riding his motorcycle through the wilderness, and then gets jumped on by people. That's fine because it's just
just
him.
that dude, right.
Yeah.
But then
when-
but they even tie in with the X-Men. Like, it's like, oh, he falls in love with Jean Grey. Suddenly, he's not a lone wolf anymore.
exactly right.
Yeah. Sorry, continue.
The nature of the character lone wolf type. But as I GM, I should be able to work around that. Since the game has gone to Roll20, I'm even more unsure if it's the character or the player who isn't interested. I'm not sure what to do. Ask.
Yep.
I've given you 3 plot hooks.
Yep.
You have been disinterested in all 3 of them. What is it you want your character to do?
Yeah.
Or do you even want to keep playing? Are you just here because...
And maybe she's just a very quiet, passive
Yeah.
player.
Yeah.
Maybe she just wants to sit there and hang out with her friends.
Yeah.
Yep.
She might be new. Did he say that she was a new player?
Nope.
He didn't say anything about that. did he?
Doesn't say.
Okay.
Doesn't say.
That seems like a very new player thing, too, to not realize that you can take everybody down the path of your story.
Right.
To be like, oh, I don't know if I'm supposed to be the center of attention.
Yeah, and
And that could be that could be.
Yeah.
as well,
It could very well being on Roll20. They're not in the same room with everybody. It's hard to read all
Social
the micro
cues.
Yeah, social cues, all of that. So
Maybe she's on Facebook and not paying attention and didn't hear you.
well, or that, and it's just I don't want
Could
to
be.
talk over you guys. There's stuff going on. I know that it could be. It's a lot.
Yeah. Second issue takes dice fudging to a risky new level.
Ooh.
Risky. I have a hard time judging how powerful to make the bad guys. In the first combat of my campaign, I had to dial back the damage the main baddie did because I was at serious risk of killing one of the PCs. You can kill a PC, it's
Yeah,
okay.
that's okay.
You can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But first combat of the campaign, that'd be a little rough.
That's kind of sucky.
But you could also just hurt them bad.
really bad.
I would say maybe for the first combat or 2, if you're still working with the system. I know we had that problem with the first 4E game and stuff. You were still grappling with how to build a character. So I get it.
Sure.
But yeah. Anyway.
Since then, I've had the baddies who have either surrendered, ran away, or got eaten by a Lovecraftian nightmare because I thought there was a chance that the players would lose or that combat was taking too long, making the players bored. To fix this, I'm considering taking dice fudging to a new level. We've all been in a situation where the baddie is down to a handful of health but just won't die. It kills the pacing of the story and frustrates the players, so why not end the fight at a dramatically appropriate moment instead? Damage rolls would hamper the main baddie in different ways so that the PCs know they're making progress even if I'm not keeping exact track of health. Things like dropping a weapon, falling over backwards, blinding him for a few seconds, and so on until the time is right. Then the next good hit, and boom, he falls over and the fight's done. This is outright cheating, but is it cheating for the sake of the story? This way, the fight is only as tough or as easy as I want without the hassle of calculating power levels or dealing with bad dice rolls. Am I taking things too far, or is there a kernel of a good idea in this? Thanks, Al Varant. P.S. Drink water. Booze dehydrates you. Let me just say, first off, if you listen to Fear the Boot...
You should. They're awesome.
Oh, what's his name? I can't remember which one it was. One of them flat out admitted that he does this all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
He doesn't have any idea how many hit points his bad guys have. He just gets to the point where he thinks that the players have done enough damage and now is an appropriate moment for the monster to fall over dead. I don't have any problem with that at all.
Right.
I personally, if you think that's cheating, what you can do is say there's a range of hit points.
Yes.
Because you can have that if you're using D&D and you have 12 hit dice, you can say, okay, 12 hit dice has a range of, if I roll all ones, of being 12 to being whatever it is. I don't remember what monster hit dice are, D8s or D6s. I don't know what they're supposed to be.
What system you're playing?
Well, I'm talking about old D&D.
Oh, yeah.
But but you have a range of points and say,
Yeah.
okay, that's the range of hit points from 12 to 86.
I think that's fine.
And just say, once I'm somewhere in between there, I won't
Yeah.
let it go too high, and they have to get at least this much. And I'll find, and once it gets in that area, then I'll let them kill them.
And they're still rolling, and then if there's fails, interesting things happen. If crits happen, the interesting things happen. You're
Right.
still not cheating them of their dicing experience.
Right.
And if you do it right, they won't know you didn't stat up your villain.
Yeah.
So
I do that. I don't have villains statted all the time.
Yeah.
I write them down as it's like, oh, they're going to fight this guy. Okay.
Yeah.
We with Vampire, normally what I do is I give them like a physical stat, a mental stat, and a social stat. If they social and mental are even going to come into it.
Yeah.
But I usually just give them a stat like, okay, 3. This guy's got 3s in all of his physical stuff.
Yeah.
And he's a Toreador, so he's got celerity and presence.
And this is going to be a very divisive thing. I could see how people
Yeah.
are going to either want full-on character statted up and they're going to follow the numbers, and there's going to be other people that are going to be like, yeah, there's a lot of wiggle room in there.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily change the story, and like like they were saying, and we do. I feel like, I mean, I can't assume, like, I've only done one game on stream, but GMing, con games, you have a time limit.
Sure.
You have to get it in that time limit.
And why the fuck are you going to keep saying, I hit,
Yeah.
I
Right.
miss, I hit. You keep, everyone's bored
I will
just
never-
so you can get to a fucking
Or they
number.
miss lunch at the con. That's awful.
I'll never
Yeah.
forget the all-night combat we had in 4E.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
I'll
was
never
so
forget.
hard.
6 hours of just rolling a hit,
Yeah.
rolling a hit, rolling
It
a
was
hit.
so hard.
Because it was attrition. We were waiting for the thing to go down.
Yeah, it was a tough fight. You were
Yeah.
fighting like all bunch of
But it
brutes
was all night.
Yeah.
But I think this is a really elegant solution, like having things like him dropping a weapon. That's great. Like someone gets a really good hit on him. It doesn't necessarily have to be a crit. Or, if you're having, sometimes GMs will have you, and some systems have you kind of explain what you do. Someone
Right.
has a really cool kind of role-playing, attack that they decide to say. I'm going to make the pillar fall. I'm going to use my power instead of just shooting him. Fireball, fireball, fireball. Like, I'm going to use my power to knock over the columns holding up so it falls on him. Like, that's really cool.
Sure.
You're probably not going to have, like, XP for the column hitting him, because why would you plan that much? Because that's
Right.
stupid, don't plan that much. So then you're like, okay, cool, that knocks the weapon out of his hand and you take a bunch of hit points off. So using those creative things is great. I think that's, I don't necessarily feel like that is dice fudging.
I think it actually improves.
It's not dice fudging.
Yeah.
But I mean, there.
Not that that's bad either, but I feel
You know
like
what?
coming up
I don't
with
even want to
some
talk
of
to
it.
the purists anymore. Who are like, no, you have to exactly what.
Always
I'm
the
sorry.
same.
If everyone at the fucking table is bored and they're like, I hit.
I know.
Why the fuck do you need to get to that number?
Right.
Fun, game,
Yeah.
enjoyment.
Yeah.
Please.
And they're going to get there eventually. That's the thing. It's like, it's not like people who are like, well, if they go left or they go right, it's the same thing in the way you're cheating them. It's like they're going to sit there until they take the monster down. You're not changing it.
You're good.
You're not changing the outcome.
In most combats, you're going to know in 2 or 3 rounds how that combat's going to go.
Yeah.
Right? Unless you have some like severe dice swings or something.
Yeah.
You're gonna know in the first few sessions.
Absolutely.
You're gonna see which side is gonna suddenly have a numeric advantage because maybe they concentrated fire on a couple guys and took a couple of them out early. You're going to know which way the tide's going to go. Once you know that, you don't have to play the whole goddamn thing out.
Yeah.
Well-
Unless they're having a great time, because you can't have.
If that's what you want to do,
Yeah.
but if your players aren't having
No,
fun
if they're
doing
just
that,
like, I hate
why the
it,
hell
I'll
are
do
you
it again.
torturing them with game mechanics?
Yeah, don't do that.
I think you'll find by taking a lot of the numbers away from being your NPC or your villain that you're hitting, you're going to be much more descriptive of the combat.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to drop back. He's going to drop the one knee. He's going to clutch his arm where you've hit him. And I think it's going to inspire the players. They're like, all right, we circle him, or I get up on the dais now, so I have the high ground, or whatever.
Have the high ground.
I have the high
But
ground.
I think you're going to find the combats are going to be much more interesting. The players are going to be more creative rather than standing in one place and trading blows back and forth. Because that's ostensibly what happens when you go by the numbers. Everybody stands in a circle and they take their turn hitting him.
Yeah. And make sure that you let your players interact with the environment. Because I know it's a little off the topic of the email, but like having columns, having a place where they can get higher, having a ledge they can push him off of or something. Like those are all really interesting ways that can speed up and make combat more unique rather than just you are in a giant empty cavern with nothing around and you just get to hit him over and over and over again.
I just reached that scenario in. I'm playing a Warhammer iPad game. What's that game called?
I don't know.
Deathwatch. It's the Tyranid invasion. And I just got to the one where I have to fight this big frickin' monster that's got a shit ton of hit points. And I've tried like 3 different combinations of Marines to take him out. And I can't, and I have to kill him. That's how you win the scenario. You can't just get to the thing. You have to take this thing out. And oh my God.
Yeah.
It is insane.
Yeah.
It is absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, those are the cool things that differentiate tabletop RPGs from bosses in video games. Like bosses in video games, there's one way you can beat them generally. And eventually, if you're
I can't
frustrated
find it.
enough, you can look on YouTube and somebody's recorded it and posted it there for you to copy.
Right.
But that's the cool thing about tabletop RPGs. You could go in with different groups in the same scenario and get 50 different outcomes and they can all win.
I've done that.
Yeah, we've done that.
I've played the same scenario at
Yeah.
cons, and they're radically different games.
Yeah. So, like, take advantage of those differences to help speed up combat, to help make it more interesting. Because a combat can be a really great time if you're allowed to use those creative solutions, which then can also speed it up if it's.
Now, there are people out there who like war games.
Absolutely.
I don't like mixing my war games with my role-playing games.
Yes.
I like them to kind of be at least a little separate.
Yeah.
I do like a tactical game. I think it can be very fun. And like GURPS, with playing the tactical rules in GURPS is a blast.
Yeah.
But characters don't have 170 hit points. They'll have like 12.
It does beg the question, though, to make sure that you honor your character's mechanics as well. So, like with GURPS, I'm playing with the Mook, and he's like, "Oh, you're going to do an ice shot. Okay, so you're going to wait, and he tells me how many dice that's going to, or how much more damage that's going to do if I shoot my arrow through the guy's eye." Whether or not he has that villain statted up, I don't know. I don't think I'll ever know if he actually had it statted up. But he gave me a really satisfying experience because I knew that the mechanics with GURPS and doing an eye shot would do a X amount of damage, and I don't felt like I was robbed. I have a suspicion he just was making it up until
Well, yeah, well, and once you've run a game long enough, you kind of get a firm grip on the mechanics, and you know, okay, if I'm going to make a tough bad guy, he's going to have stats around here. If I'm going to make a weak bad guy, or like a quick fight where you can take him out in a couple shots, it's going to be around this level.
Right. I guess my point is that even if you're not going to have a firm number or hit points or what his abilities are, make sure that you honor your players' abilities and mechanics.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Because they've spent a lot of time and money building those mechanics in. So you can't just say, you shoot him. It hits him. He seems pained. It's like, but I was aiming for the eye. Oh yeah, you hit him in the eye. He's got an arrow in his eye. Okay, but I mean, roll your damage. Let me see your damage. Wow, that's a lot of tens. Give them that moment.
Right. See, and that's one of the problems with like games like D&D. It's like, okay, I'm going to aim for his eye. Okay, you can't aim for his eye. But let's say you do. Okay, yes, you can aim for his eye. Go ahead and roll your damage. I rolled a 1.
Yeah, right. It glanced off the.
No, you hit. But when you rolled the damage, you rolled a 1.
Roll a 1. Yeah, we did that in Star Wars.
Right.
Took the time, aimed my sniper rifle, rolled like the minimum amount of damage that a sniper rifle could ever do.
Those are always really interesting moments, though. They're annoying.
You grazed his ear.
Yeah.
No, you did 1 point of damage to his eye. His eye is gone. He's in a lot of pain, but by next round he'll be fine.
Right.
All right.
All right.
Did you? Did he?
No, I told him to email.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I told him, I'm like, okay, because someone in the chat room was like, oh, yeah, we're
Right.
allowed to just write in questions. It's like, if it's related to the topic, like if you have a question, like a related question, a little bit of a spin-off on the thing, then yes, we can take stuff from the chat room. But otherwise, as a teacher, I have a thing for lines, and we have a little bit of a backlog. So
Yes,
you can't
a little
just
bit of
jump in the chat room and cut the line. So write into happyjacksrpg@gmail.com.
Yep. And that's it.
Yep.
That's it.
We're done.
Fini.
Where's the music? There it
I don't know,
is.
you have to do
I'll be at Gen Con.
Oh, that's right.
Was that 2 weeks from now?
Yep.
I think it's
Yeah.
about 2 weeks from now.
the 18th, right?
We're talking about doing some sort of meetup. I have no idea where it will be, but it'll be early Saturday evening or late afternoon Saturday. I'm guessing. Don't know. I've never been to Indianapolis. I don't know any place or anything. If you are a listener and maybe if you're on the forum, you're planning on being there and you know of a place where we can have a meetup, maybe a bar,
That'd be cool.
That's open before 3.
let me know.
Yeah.
Also, the that Friday show, which is the 15th.
8.
I don't remember the date of that Friday. That Friday, CA Dave is going to run the show.
Yeah.
Are you going to be here? Or are you going to be at the wedding?
That doesn't happen until the 18th.
Okay, what's that Friday?
That's
The 18th.
Okay, then that's the
I will be at that wedding.
You will be there. So CA Dave is going to be here. He's probably going to have other people here. We're going to try to Skype me in,
Yeah.
maybe through my iPad, so we can have. If there's listeners around, that'll be on Friday.
Okay.
That'll
Maybe
be.
a live from Gen Con kind of thing. Is that
Well, yeah,
what
I'll
we're
do
trying to do?
I'm standing here in front of the. I'll get my microphone out with a little mic.
Totally
pads on
should.
it. Oh, the humanity!
I would so love to have your little press hat, you know.
My God.
Still in the
We
streets.
need that.
Let me stop a wandering person here. You, sir, do you consider yourself a grognard or a min-maxer? I'm there you have it.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
But if I don't know if there's if
You
they
and Bill need to produce a series of those, and we'll just give them away as Patreon because that is so
do them in
hysterical.
black and white and make
Yeah.
it all flickery and
So hysterical.
Jen Human says, good luck, bandwidth is at a premium at Gen Con.
well, I may not do it at Gen Con. I may do it from the Airbnb.
Hotel. Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I don't have a hotel. I got an Airbnb because the hotels are ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I don't know, or maybe we can do it from a bar.
Yeah.
You know, that's off the beaten path, so they might have their own Wi-Fi, and
That'd be fun.
who knows?
That'd be amazing.
But that's on Friday, and that would be at like 10 p.m. Central. Is that Central time?
You're
Indianapolis.
going. I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's 2 hours. 2 hours later, so
Yeah.
that would be 10
Central,
so
because
10
it's 3
o'clock.
hours East Coast. So
But
yeah.
again, I may do that, and if I do that, there also might be. I can get a press pass.
Yeah.
They might have a press room where they have better bandwidth.
Maybe.
I don't know.
It might be too late to get one now.
I don't know.
Probably. Usually for a con, it's usually 6 months out or so.
Oh,
But you
yeah,
have to get a press
you're
pass.
probably right. You're
Yeah.
probably right.
But start a thread on the forum for people going so you guys
Yeah.
can coordinate. So check happyjacks.org/forum.
And then September 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th will be at Strategicon. That's Gateway 2017.
Yeah.
Is Gateway or Con?
September
Game
Con,
Launch?
whatever that one is.
September Con.
Registration for games is like.
And registration for games is soon.
I think it's this next week.
I haven't put a game up yet, but I think I might run my games on demand for kids on Sunday.
Okay, you should do an adult game too this time. Just do one.
Prep
We'll,
it.
we'll synchronize.
I'm gonna do the
I'll watch
I'm gonna do the
kids.
LARP 101 thing at 2:00 on Saturday
Yeah, that's cool.
because they're having like a LARP, like a this is what LARPing is like, and then you have a thing, and I was gonna take the kids to it.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
So Zachary wants to take the Warhammer army too.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I really don't want to expose you to those people,
That's
Zachary.
a thing you started.
Someone emailed, and I'll read it later at some point in the future because I think he just sent it today. He's like, "Fuck you, Venable," or something like that. And it was about how much shit we give to Warhammer players and how it must be Warhammer night because the place smells like cheese.
Yeah.
Right. So
We've now accepted LARPers into the fold, and we stopped bagging on them, so now we have to have a new target.
We still bang on furries, though, right?
sure. Oh yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's
Head
good.
full.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
That's later.
Yeah. All right, now try again.
Thank you for joining us for season 19, episode 20 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu.
My name is Kimmy.
I'm Stork.
That's it. So I told you all the stuff I had to tell you. See you next Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific time. Sunday, 4 p.m. we will have Bloodblade and Tusk. And then on Monday at 8 p.m. we will have
Savage Worlds
Rifts.
Yes.
And more games coming.
Yeah, check it out at happyjacks.org/schedule.
Happyjacks.org/schedule for those of you from England.
Yes. And we will show you our calendar for those of you watching online in just a second.
Yep.
Thank you very much. We'll leave with a song.
Every fortnight without fail.
We owe our cup to the brewing man.
A hearty brew with flavor sweet.
Raise a toast to the brewing man.
And with a smile each glass I greet.
God save every brewing man. Beer in belly and cup in hand. God save every brewing man.
For the crazy Scotsman down the way.
God save every brewing man.
Brews a batch with a bale of hay.
We owe our cup to the brewing man.
He wears a skirt and plays a pipe.
Raise a toast to the brewing man.
But his ale's damn tasty when it's ripe.
God save every brewing man. Beer in belly and cup in hand. God save every brewing man.
Well, Happy Jack, he brews strong beer.
God save every brewing man.
It looks like violence, smells quite queer.
We owe our cup to the brewing man.
I had a sip, my stomach to soothe.
Raise a toast to the brewing man.
When I barfed it up, the taste improved.
God save every brewing man. Beer in belly and cup in hand. God save every brewing man.
Now to all you drinkers, hear this song.
God save every brewing man.
Never do your brewer wrong.
We owe our cup to the brewing man.
Consider this if you sit on your ass.
Raise a toast to the brewing man.
Is his life's work that fills your glass.
God save every brewing man. Beer in belly and cup in hand. God save every brewing man. Beer in belly and cup in hand. God save every brewing man.
The preceding program has been a presentation of the Angry Folk Media Empire.
Bum 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 bum.